What Anthony Richardson showed at Florida is an immense amount of talent that, if put together, could absolutely make him a franchise quarterback. At the same time, though, Anthony Richardson has a very high probability to be a complete bust if he doesn't land in the right spot.
In the NFL draft, the Houston Texans select...
No! God, please, no! No! No!
The talent is there, but he needs a lot, and I mean a ton of work to get anywhere close to being a solid NFL level passer. Anthony Richardson is essentially a lottery ticket, and teams are definitely going to take a shot on him early. But how did he get to this point, and what do you really need to know about Anthony Richardson ahead of the draft? But first, thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Have you ever wanted to watch Netflix content from other countries like I have? There are so many things that other countries have that you might not get at home, but having a VPN like Surfshark allows you to change that. You can get content from anywhere in the world, plus it's a lot safer. Using a VPN like Surfshark helps hide your IP address to protect you from hackers. Not only is Surfshark perfect for your internet needs, but it's risk-free too, because Surfshark has a 30-day money-back guarantee. As a matter of fact, our viewers have an extra special offer that will get you 83% off and an extra 3 months of Surfshark for free. All you need to do is click the link down below and use our code JD Productions. Again, click the link down in the description and use our code JD Productions to get 83% off and an additional 3 months free of Surfshark. Thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back to it. Anthony Richardson attended Eastside High School in Gainesville, Florida. In his 4-year varsity career, Richardson passed for 4,600 yards and 37 touchdowns, plus 1,600 yards and 41 touchdowns rushing. He was a 2019 Elite 11 finalist and was considered a 4-star prospect. Richardson was offered by 17 schools, 2 of which were in the SEC, Florida and Georgia. He opted to play for the Gators and decided to redshirt his true freshman year, while redshirt senior Kyle Trask led Florida. He only threw 2 passes during that span. 1 was a touchdown and 1 was an interception. Richardson then only started a single game as a redshirt freshman, as the Gators decided to go with Emory Jones to start. Richardson did get some playtime and threw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and also rushed for 400 yards and 3 scores. Finally, Anthony Richardson was named the Gators starter for 2022, and he got to showcase some of his talents. Now, Florida went 6-6 and simply wasn't very good. It was the first season under Billy Napier after Dan Mullen was fired late during the 2021 season. But Anthony Richardson really was that one big bright spot on the Gators. He started all 12 regular season games and passed for 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, while completing 53.8% of his passes. His stats don't jump off the page. Nobody's really going to disagree with that, but he can be a serious threat in the run game though. Richardson carried the ball 103 times for 654 yards and 9 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson's strengths are pretty easy to see. If you watched him at Florida, you've already seen that he's essentially a complete athletic freak. We're talking 6'4", 235 pounds with only 10% body fat, also claims he runs a 4.4, and also can squat 500 pounds apparently. His size and strength is obviously something you can't teach, and his pure ability is simply incredible. We'll start with the arm. It's potentially the strongest in the class, and there's not a single pass he can't make on the field. He's shown that he can be accurate on the run, and has a quick release, and has pretty good touch, with his ball placement being pretty good in the short and intermediate. What makes him such a freak, though, is that he's an elite runner too. He's got big size, so he can just break tackles and absolutely bully kids, but he also has some serious breakaway speed too, making him an insanely difficult player to contain. There's a lot of good tape on him, but there's also a lot of bad. Anthony Richardson definitely has his weaknesses. The raw talent is there, but there are some serious things that he needs to clean up. His decision making is probably the most talked about negative to his game. He makes some poor decisions and can be very risky at times. Turnovers are even more of a killer in the pros, but that's something that he can clean up in the right system or with the right coaching. There are some things that may be a little bit harder to fix though. While his arm strength might be the best in the class, he very well may be the most inaccurate passer in the class as well. He manages to miss wide open receivers, and that may have something to do with his bad mechanics. I mean, he doesn't really look like the normal drop back passer. Sometimes he makes an absolutely insane play and there isn't many other athletes that could do it, but he'll follow it up with a bad play. He's very inconsistent, and he needs to straighten that up. Richardson did only start a single year in college, so his lack of experience is kind of bad. But he does also have a lot of developing to do, and from what we've already seen that he's capable of, he could be a masterpiece. Anthony Richardson has an absolute cannon. I think a play that perfectly shows that came against LSU. Very early in the game, Richardson has a receiver out wide on both sides and runs a little play action. He ended up with a lot of time to throw the ball and just steps into an absolute cannon, almost 60 yards downfield, right in the breadbasket to Justin Shorter. It looks like cover 2 man, and Shorter runs a deep post, and his right side safety doesn't really have enough time to get there, and it's just Shorter one-on-one, and Richardson puts it in the most perfect spot. It's an absolute masterpiece of a play, and says a lot that the Florida coaching staff would draw something up like that 60 yards downfield. Just to showcase his mobility a little bit, later on in that same game, Richardson had a wild run on the first play of the fourth quarter. The Gators are down, and it's a 2nd and 16, and Richardson just somehow makes things happen. Richardson has 2 out wide to his right, 1 to the left, and LSU has 2 deep. Richardson takes the snap, and Florida's pretty well contained on the right side of the ball. Granted, he doesn't really look much to his left, but Richardson sees a big hole to the left side and just takes off. The play starts inside the Gators' own 20, and he isn't even touched until he's at like the LSU 40 and manages to bounce off 3 or 4 guys before leaping into the end zone. Just a beautiful display of how mobile this guy is. He can definitely make things happen and extend plays. He does have one of those what the hell type plays like Kenny Pickett did coming out of college after he did that fake slide thing. Anthony Richardson's play came against Utah on a 2-point conversion though. It's a goal line situation, and he fakes it to the left and the line goes with it, but it does leave defenders coming right at him while he's trying to make the throw. Richardson ends up doing this bizarre jumping pump fake, and he ends up landing and having enough time to hit Dejon Reynolds wide open in the back of the end zone. It's just one of those how did he do that type of plays, and Richardson has a lot of them. It seems like the pretty common pro comparison to Anthony Richardson is Cam Newton, which honestly I think is a pretty fair comp. 2 Florida quarterbacks who are both absolutely huge. Cam was 6'5", 245 pounds, so a bit bigger than Richardson. I would say Richardson is a little more comparable to the size of a guy like Derrick Henry. Henry weighs about 10 more pounds, but Richardson is taller. Richardson is also a hell of a lot faster than Cam Newton was. He's not only big and can bully guys like Cam did, but Richardson has some serious Lamar Jackson type speed too. Expecting someone to be the next Cam Newton is a very big ask. And trust me, Richardson has a very long way to go to get anywhere close to that. Anthony Richardson is a very polarizing prospect, and because of that, he's all over the place on mock drafts. Mel Kiper has Richardson mocked as the 9th pick of the draft to the Carolina Panthers. Kiper says he wouldn't play him in year 1 and that he isn't ready to be a passer in the NFL yet. His physical tools and size can't be taught, and the second he steps on the field, he'd be one of the league's most electrifying runners. Kiper reiterated that he has a long way to go with his mechanics too, but has a high ceiling if a coaching staff can help him get there. Daniel Jeremiah has already put out his mock draft 2.0, but didn't have Richardson going top 10 in either of them. In Jeremiah's first mock, he had Richardson going off the board at 22 to the Ravens. Now, I think that says 2 big things. It sounds like Jeremiah didn't have a ton of confidence in the future of Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, but it also shows that there is more intrigue in Richardson. He originally slated the Lions to draft Clemson linebacker Trent Simpson at 18, but in his mock 2.0 draft, Jeremiah had Detroit taking Anthony Richardson. His reasoning is actually really good too. The Lions are in a perfect spot for Richardson. It's a place where he wouldn't need to start right away. He can come in and sit behind Jared Goff for at least a year before he even has to try to take over. Anthony Richardson is the first quarterback we've really taken a deep dive into film and all that stuff with. And I gotta say, after watching it, I can understand why he's such a polarizing figure. I will say, his film is never boring to watch. Whether it's a bonehead play or something incredible, Anthony Richardson makes sure to keep things exciting. But it leaves a lot of room for questions from teams. Richardson has so many red flags and issues, but the potential is just so there. Honestly, what he could become is just what teams are worried about. about, not what he is right now. Cam Newton is the common comp, but I do see a lot of similarities to Josh Allen, at least in the way that they're viewed. Allen came out of Wyoming with a huge arm and great running ability, but everyone was just so worried about his mechanics and bad decision making. And that's definitely similar to Richardson. Allen had a bad start to his NFL career, and it took him a few years to eventually become the player he is today. And that very possibly could be the same trajectory that Anthony Richardson could be on. He's absolutely worth a high first-round pick, but it's gonna take the right organization and time to really make it worth it. At this rate, it seems like he won't even be able to make it out of the top 10, but I still definitely don't think he goes above a guy like Bryce Young. Young also has insane talent, and he's probably a bit more on the safer side. I do think the Lions are actually a pretty good landing spot, but I don't think the pick will come at 16. I think it might come at 6. If not, the next 3 picks, the Raiders, Falcons, and Panthers might all take their shot on Richardson. Anthony Richardson is probably going to go high at the draft, and once he does, it'll probably be a minute until we actually see him hit the field. But he seems to be the type of prospect that's either going to be the next star or the next bust.